Starting my speech in three, two, one. Imagine a world where you can essentially wake up from your bed and then walk over to your study desk and then attend your university classes for online. What if I give you another twist? That this isn't just yourself, but this is actually for everyone else in your class. And in fact, it's actually not just for your class. It's for practically everyone else in other universities, everyone else in other universities around the world. As the leader of government, I'm going to be currently debating on the motion of this House supports a permanent move to online tertiary education, and I will tell you why this motion is actually very beneficial for us right now. First of all, let's settle down on what the tertiary education really means. So, tertiary education would refer to college, university, or vocation schools, and essentially everything that is past your 12th grade, everything that is past high school, that is essentially just higher education. And doing this online would mean that we're going to be doing this via Zooms, via Google Meetings, via ebooks, etc. So, let's get on to my arguments on why this motion should be supported. First of all, education should not be limiting, it should be accessible because there are many places around the world where higher education is simply very difficult to reach, like, for example, in developing nations. There is a struggle just to go to university if you do not live nearby and can't rent out a place. This is especially true for students who are economically unstable and relied on scholarships to get their tuition fee cut out. Most of the time, these students are from cities that are far away from the capital or simply far away from these universities, hence why they actually relied on scholarships to get their tuition fee cut out. And most of the time, these students can't simply be supported because of their either economy or distance that prohibit them from attending these higher educations. Hence, why renting out a place to simply receive the higher education that they firmly need, that they simply deserve, is just challenging. Let's take for example, a student from Surabaya has recently been accepted into UI, one of the most prestigious universities in all of Indonesia. Let's picture it out. Surabaya is all the way on the east, meanwhile UI is at Depok, which is around here. And that would mean that the student would practically need to go from the most eastern side of Java to go to the western side of Java just to simply attend universities. And this is very, very challenging because we also need to consider the labor cost. We need to consider the cost on just doing this by itself. We need to consider how long is it going to take for them to get there, and then they're gonna need to survey the place, a place to which they probably don't even know because they've never been there before. Then they're going to need to pick out a place which accommodates for their budget. And then they're gonna need to rent out a moving truck to move all of their items if they don't even have any facilities to help them, such as a bed. And then last of all, they're going to also be considering how to get back to their families, maybe like once or twice a month. That by itself is already very, very taxing for them. It's very costly for them, and this isn't even covering on tuition fees. Tuition fees from universities are very high, and by just simply, if we were to jump into online, it'd be so much easier for them to hop on a Zoom meeting and study virtually because all of the costs that I previously mentioned would either be gone or reduced. This would also be beneficial for professors who live far away from these universities, because that would mean that they would practically be treated the same as the students that I have previously mentioned, where they don't need to figure out a place to rent, they won't need to figure out a place for everything else around the university to which they probably might not even live near. I'd also like to add that this would be good for international students who are enrolled in universities that are from developed nations. Because, for example, if I wanted to go to Oxford, I'd need to convert my rupiahs into euros or pounds, to which is not really possible, to which might not be possible for me if I were from a low middle class family, because I simply would not have the budget for that. Hence why, just from making this into online is already going to be helping out a lot of people within the accessibility area. Now, my second argument is that institutions can also cut operational costs and facilities because of this move. Because first of all, this is gonna be less of a hassle for them because they won't need to pay for costs such as for light. They won't be able to they won't need to pay for ACs, etc. They won't need to spend that much money. And what are they gonna do with this money exactly? Well, with the less money being used, they're going to be able to have more of a profit to fund student research because right now scientific research needs a lot of funding, and universities could expand their budget on these researches by saving up. Now let's get on to what opposition might say. First of all, opposition could say that by moving online, what would happen to majors that need practical lessons? Well, my answer to this is that they could simply use virtual reality or AR, like for example, doing an experiment via virtual reality, or even from interactive online lab. Because throughout the COVID pandemic, interactive labs have been increasing more and more, and they've become even practically a, a good enough alternative towards the real labs. And next, if VR has proved, and next, if by supporting online tertiary education, this would mean that all these VR labs, all these online interactive labs, they're going to be able to improve. They're going to be able to become even better. To which they're going to be able to support this online move even more. Second of all, opposition might say, what about their social life? Well, what about organizations? Well, we've seen how communication and interaction didn't even die during the pandemic, right? Therefore, it would barely even be hindered by doing this move. There are so many social platforms that would be used, so switching to online wouldn't be a problem. Uh, and for students, especially for students within an organization, because beside the whole communication problem now solved, these students are going to be within their domicile. They're going to be within their own area, which means that organizations are going to be able to access a lot more places without having to focus merely on what area their university is at, because these students are practically scattered all around the world, and their impact could be much, much more bigger than what it was initially to be if it was offline. And now, third, opposition might say, what about international students from the other side of the world? What if they're on the other side of the globe? And my simple logic is that universities already have night classes, or just simply classes with a variety of times. So I say that this is obviously a solvable issue. We've proven that education doesn't immediately die out once we move to online platform, as shown during the pandemic, because we adapted. Because the human thirst for knowledge and wisdom never burns out. It keeps on going regardless of where we are, and moving online is just another way to promote accessibilities in universities, because education is important. Therefore, why I am very proud to be proposition on moving tertiary education online. Thank you.